Ladies and gentlemen, top left-hand corner of Berlingrad has not played in his GSL group just yet, but it's still, of course, considered one of the best Protosses in the world. From Quangdong Freaks, it is Trap. And the bottom right has played his GSL group. Slight spoilers here if you have not watched that yet. Close your eyes, plug your ears. Did manage to advance out of that group in some very close series. His ZVP looked definitely a little bit shaky, but he managed to pull it out. From Team Envy, it is DRG. As there's some interesting news with Team NV, as I believe it was Crank and Maru did end up being dropped by Team NV. There was health complications with the owner, so couldn't quite have the funds to support those two players, so had to let them go. But DRG, Bunny, and Creator still all on the team. They are playing for reduced salaries, I believe, but have still stuck with the team, which is of course great to see. And similarly, a Freak of Freaks, or previously known as a Freak of Freaks, did also go through some changes. Partnered, got a partner, are now known as the Quangdong Freaks. So really just a name change. Still, again, the same team, the same players. You still have Armani. Wasn't able to make it out of his group. Actually played, I believe, in the, if I'm not wrong, in the same group as Maru and Ryung, which was a great group. If you have not watched GSL Group B, absolutely some really amazing games. It was a stacked group. Armani, Ryung, Maru, Zest. Such sick games. All I'm going to say is that the final series, the elimination match, the final decider, was one of the best series that I've ever seen in a while. Like, it was that good. So do go check it out. Those were some awesome games in GSL Group B. It's really nice that we've finally gotten back into the swing of things. We're getting these tournaments happening. We're getting Super Tournament. We're getting GSL Code S. Of course, you also have the new GSL format, which is pertinent because both these players, I think, are expected to make it out of their groups. And so there's a high likelihood that they might face off against each other. Again, with DRG making it out of his in second, with Trap, I think, expected to advance. You know, maybe not in first, maybe in second. I know he does have a very, very tough group. But there is a chance that, hey, maybe they get seeded into the same round. I believe it is round of 12 group. And how the round of 12 works in GSL is that it's, it's 6 people. It's a round robin in each group. Top 3 make it out. It is a very, very interesting, very competitive kind of way to play it. So I'm excited about that and how that ends up kind of shaping up and working out. And if these players, if some of them are more suited towards that style, that kind of format, this definitely could be a chance that they are. So it'll be very interesting to see. As we have seen the Stargate opening here from Trap, it has gone into the Phoenix into the Oracle. So you opt for the map control first to clear up the Overlords and then into your Oracle. That means that it will be later. You're not going to get as much... you're not going to get as much value with the Oracle in terms of harassment when you go for the Phoenix first. But even with that being said, you'll still be able to get the revelations, scout out around the map and try and dive on into a mineral line with the pickup available. And so, a very, very interesting opening here from Trap, as that's also Adept Glaives started. Resonating Glaives on the way. Additional gateways being placed down. So we're not going to see an additional committal into the Stargates just yet. Of course, it's still very viable that Trap says, hey, listen, I actually want to continue to go into Stargate after this Glaive Adept pressure. And Trap has kind of been doing this a lot, where he said, Glaive Adepts, they don't need to be an all-in unit. You don't need to commit everything to killing your opponent with Glaive Adepts. You can actually use them with a third base and, just use them to try and get worker kills, some harassment, and still have your macro behind that. behind it as its robotics facility as well on the way. And I think this is a really great call. I love this style of play from Trap, where he's utilizing this unit, but it's not going to be the be-all, end-all of his game plan. Now, DRG has not been able to scout out the Adepts, and actually this lane moves in right as they leave, which is extremely unfortunate here for the Team Envy Zerg. This Oracle is getting a little bit corralled, but the Adepts are here, and again, this is not meant to kill your opponent usually, but I don't know if DRG is ready, as the Glade Adepts are just going to start to get so much damage done. 24 Lings immediately on the way, and so far the value is actually pretty decent here for DRG. Gets a great transfuse, is going to start to lose the drones though. The immediate pull, and now Lings are out en masse, and they're going to be able to fight this. Ooh! Trap not immediately with the attack move on that, so does just take a bit more damage than he needs to right off the bat. Doesn't get as much value, as Adepts now shading back into the third trap, continuing to try and find damage, but in the main base, does lose a lot of the Adepts. 9 drones go down though, 10 eventually end up falling. It's decent value here for Trap. Gets DRG down to 56 workers, but honestly, I think you want a little bit more value. DRG has to pull back, can't just collapse onto those Adepts, as Trap is going to pull back, isn't going to continue to commit in. Queen's going to push back the Adepts, and more gateways being added on here for Trap, so this isn't going to be it. There will be more pressure off this, because mind you, Trap's on 3 bases behind this. Trap is actually at 60 workers. He's even with DRG. DRG does have +2 melee on the way, though. But I think this is going to be your Adept, Sentry, potentially Immortal. But Adept, Sentry, Stalker push with +1 coming through from Trap. This is such a strong build. There's so much micro ability with this army. It does well against Roaches and Ravagers. It does well against Lings. You need Banelings and some decent connections to deal with it. And it looks like DRG is getting ready for that. But Trap, I love this build order from him. This is actually such a sick opening. And this transition has been very, very clean so far, as we are now up to the 6 gates, adding on the 8th. And DRG, is he preparing? Yes. Roach is on the way. Lings on the way. I mean, Banelings need to be morphed in as this push is getting ready to come across the map. DRG now knows, sees it. Lings looking for a counterattack. Queens are pulled back. And it needs to be pure units from the Zerg. Oh, that Stasis Ward. Actually gets so much value. Lings trying to commit on in, but again, the Adepts are here, so they're not going to do as well. Ravagers trying to get value. Ooh, nice Corrosive Bile. Does manage to snipe off an Adept, but some great force fields. Traps into Queens, and they were high energy, so they no longer have that transfuse available. As DRG continuing to fight this, actually, but it's just the Ravagers and Roaches left. Lings being brought back in for a wraparound, but the blink backs are going to be good. Roaches and Ravagers, you can't commit too far in. You just need to try and push this back as you're getting more units out. That's exactly what DRG does. And Trap is fully committed to this. It is 5 Stalkers, 8 Stalkers at a time. It's +1. That +1 melee is also going to finish up soon for DRG, and if he realizes that it's only Stalkers, he might go back into his Lings. Corrosive Biles managed actually to snipe the Observer there, as DRG is looking for a wraparound. Has Lings on the backside that are going to now come in. The Blinks have been used, going to try and trap a lot of this army. Doesn't mean that his Roaches, they can collapse on in and try and find some value. Some great juggles, though, from Trap. Finally is able to blink back. Gets some good value, but DRG holding on wonderfully well. As Trap is realizing, hey, listen, this pressure, it might not work out. Sure, I'm finding value with it, but it's not enough. Another robotics facility, a robotics bay behind it, and now Immortal production has started. So Zealot counterattack is going to get dealt with. The push once again on into the hatchery, though. Doesn't even get the snipe on the Ravager before Trap has to blink away. Adepts are looking to make their way into the natural, though. A large group of Adepts, 7 of them actually, going to look to shade on into the natural. There are some units there, but not quite enough, I think, to deal with it, as Lings are going to have to be brought on back. The Ravager trying its hardest to deal with it, but already 7 drones going down. Lings trying to be brought back soon enough, but Trap just doing such a good job with this pressure, as the 4th Nexus has gone down. +2 attacks has started. Zealot Legs is on the way, and Charge is going to be the option for Trap, as he gets 12 drones with that pressure. I mean, not even with that pressure, with that harassment. Gets so much value just with these little groups of units, and Trap playing extremely well right now. And it's been a while since Trap has played. I've seen Trap kind of play this style and play it this well. as disruptors are the choice, so it's not going to be Colossus. It will be the disruptors, which of course are a bit more niche. They're, you know, they are a bit more of a, hey, if this works, it works. If it doesn't, then you're a bit screwed, but that's a great blink forward. But the Banelings rolling on through. There's 40 Banelings, and they're going to be able to collapse on top of these Stalkers. Oh my, the damage is massive. Disruptor shot is good, though. He's going to be able to clean up a lot of them. And DRG, that was not a good trade. Loses so much. Look at that, resources lost. 9 probes did go down to this Zergling run by. But I don't know if it was quite worth it with how much DRG just lost to that attack. He should have pulled back the Banes. He actually found a decent trade up until that point, but committing them in for nothing is not really worth it. And now that you don't have the Banelings, well, guess what? There's a whole lot of Zealots that are here, and they have your name on their wrist blades. As Trap's going to commit on in, he just has more to work with, a larger army supply, and that's versus Roach Ravager, which is not usually how it goes. His value is trying to be found, but disruptor shots are good, and that should be game 1 going the way of Trap. Some wonderful timings, some wonderful pressure, and Trap just looks good, man. GG. And the hatchery block does go through, but that last game was certainly interesting, and it's been a while since I think I've really seen Trap actually kind of execute something that well. And I don't mean that in a bad way, because if you, like, the thing about Trap is he will always be able to execute whatever he wants to do to a certain level, and that certain level is higher than 99% of players. It is as good as most of, I would say, like the second tier Protoss players. You know, something like a, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Something like, say, a Nightmare. You know, a Creator. Most of the time, his base level of execution is a bit higher, if not a lot higher than theirs. And that's kind of where he's been playing for a while, is that he's been able to do these builds, he's been able to get the timings. Yeah, a Prince. And he can execute them just a little bit higher than that level consistently and very, very well. But the control that Trap had in that last game, it's been a while since I've really seen him control things that well and look that confident and good with his micro. I mean, the pickups with the warp prisms, the blink backs, and of course there was the blink in onto the Banelings, but then the disruptor shot control and everything beyond that. Even the way that he moved in with the Adepts just looked really, really solid, and it's been a little while since I've seen Trap look that good in a game. So it's always exciting to see, though, like, especially when a player kind of seems like, hey, you see a glimpse of like, oh wow, remember when Trap was dominating? You know, that was kind of what it looked like. Like, Trap was just executing everything so well, so perfectly for the situation. And so it is great to see that. It's going to be a Stargate opening once again, though, for Trap on Glittering Ashes, and that does make sense. Again, this is a big map. I believe Glittering Ashes is one of, if not the largest, or it's like in the top 2, if not the largest map in the current map pool. It has 9 bases per side. The usual map, you're sitting around 6 or 7. And 8 is like, whoa, that's crazy. 9 bases, there's a lot of money to go around. And a lot of those bases are actually fairly easy to take. The 3rd and the 4th are very, very close by. And even after that, your 5th and your 6th are all on high ground. You know, they are easily defensible if you can set up a position, especially for something like a Protoss, if you can get static defense up. So, more often than not, unless one player is trying to be aggressive with a timing attack, and the other player is not quite able to hold on, you will see games on this map go upwards of 16 to 20 minutes, and sometimes get even into the hyper late game. But I haven't really seen one of those recently. I would actually really like to see what these players look like in the late game, and especially DRG, I think, has definitely in this matchup at least a lot to prove. Of course, DRG's ZVT is great. His ZVT was really what got him wins, what got him far in GSL, is where he looked really, really solid. And his ZVZ and his EVP have always been just a little bit behind it. They've always been just a little not as good, I will say. I think his ZVP was closer, and then his ZVZ, I think, was actually usually his worst matchup. And so I definitely think now that he's advanced out of his group in GSL, we do want to see what he is capable of in these other matchups. You know, he played against Classic in his group. He looked a little bit shaky in those ZVPs. As we're going to see the Oracles commit on in here for Trap. Actually gets 5 drones, even with Queens and Sport Crawlers in position, and gets out with both Oracles, even though one is a little bit low on that health, on those hit points. But still, decent damage already from Trap, and keeping the units alive is the most important part, as it's immediately into a robotics facility. Twilight Council has been built, a Templar Archives being added on, 2 more gateways and charge, so Trap is immediately going to be swinging this into very heavy ground play with the Charge-Lot Archon, potentially Immortal. You know, the really old school style of Protoss would be interesting to see if that's what he ends up going for, or if it's just going to be more of the straight gateway Charge-Lot Archon, and you just try and be really, really aggressive all across the map with this pressure. I mean, it definitely is looking like Trap is gearing up for something. He's going to be going up right now to 6 gateways. It's not a crazy number. What you really want to look for is, hey, are you going up to 8? Because when you're going up to 8 gateways on 3 bases, that's when you're starting to expect a little bit something more all-in-y and a bit more committed to the pressure. But as it is now, 6 gateways, Templars being morphed in, or warped in and then morphing into Archons, Zealot Legs, and the Forge being added on so that Trap can start to work on his +1 ground weapons. And it's a second robotics facility as well, so yeah, it is just going to kind of be the more standard ground-based play from Trap, which is great to see. Again, I mean, we're on this new patch. We're still really waiting to see how Protoss are going to adapt to it, because the Void Ray is not as strong. You know, that's the big thing. The Void Ray is not as strong. The shield battery is not as strong. It has less energy, you know, for these clutch holds. So it means that you gotta have other options, and here we go. It's gonna be Charge-Lot Archons going on in. There are a lot of Roaches available, though. DRG, I think, has read this quite well. And again, with Trap, with it being the situation of, ooh, very nice wall off there against the Lings. With it being the situation of he's trying to get up a 3rd base, macro up, and then also apply this pressure, it's just not going to be as strong as if you did it off 2 base. For instance, as Archon drop can actually get a lot of value, and Trap is just going to be pulling back for now to his base as he works on double Immortal production, and it is going to be the Charge-Lot Immortal Archon. It's been a while since that combo has really been seen. As nice snipe on the Queen, Archons are going to get on out, and the Warp Prism not taking too much hit points. And yeah, as someone in chat said, the Void Ray is just as strong. It is just more expensive, and I think usually cost is factored into the strength of a unit. The overall strength is the value that you can get from it, and that has definitely decreased for the Void Ray, just because it does cost more. It's still a very good early game unit in ZVT, if you want to go into air. It's just that when you're looking to hold on to attacks, when you're looking to be aggressive with it, it does weaken the overall power of the Void Ray. As a nice revelation, Oracle does go down, which is a little bit unfortunate. Trap still has 1 available to him, though, as the double Immortal production is, I think it's going to be very hard for, right now, DRG to deal with. And that's also 4 more gateways. Okay, Trap. He's going a little bit more aggressive. This is definitely... This is going to be an interesting engagement here, as DRG is gearing up for an attack. But here's the thing. Right now, Trap is so strong. He has 4 High Templar with Storm. He doesn't have a lot of Zealots, but he has Archons, he has Zealots, he has Immortals. Right now, sitting at 5 Immortals versus a Roach-based army. DRG's immediately going to transition back into the Zerglings. That's a Greater Spire immediately on the way, as DRG is already at 4 bases, is adding on a 5th. This is so cool. DRG has the Roaches. You know, that's what Trap is expecting this to be, is a Roach-based army. Immediately, though, DRG is pivoting, and he's going into Zerglings with Adrenal Glands. He's going into, I mean, Broodlords, as this is going to be so cool. Banelings are actually going to roll in here, get a lot of value against these Zealots. Try to look for the mineral line, but the pull away was good. 7 probes do still end up going down. And Trap has a very, very strong army. Again, it's strong, but DRG now hitting, I mean, 112 army supply, finds a Ling run by as well, so he just needs to hold on to this push. He has Corruptors on the way. He has a Greater Spire that's almost finished up. And if you're able to get that Greater Spire out, you can suddenly get a lot of value with it. There's only 4 Phoenix out on the map. Those are built pretty early on, I think, and haven't really been used. They are available, of course, for the Spire transition if Mutalisk came out, and that's something that DRG does like, but I don't know if Trap is ready for the Broodlord. But also, is DRG ready for the Fleet Beacon for the Mothership? Doesn't look like it's going to be carriers. No Tempest either. It is just the Mothership for now. So again, Trap does not know that this is going to be Broodlords. This is like the most secretive Broodlord transition that I have ever seen. 5 Broodlords on the way. Trap has no idea. Baneling's continuing to roll in. I mean, DRG right now is actually just being so good about this aggression, these counterattacks. He's all over the place. As some great Corrosive Vials man just snipe off one of the Phoenixes. 3 more Broodlords on the way. This is... I mean, Trap, he's preparing for his late game. I just don't know if he knows yet. I might have seen it there with the Phoenix, but it's only a singular Tempest on the way. DRG does need to look for this timing soon, though. Like, DRG has a trigger. When he has all these Broodlords, he needs to go across the map. He needs to try and find damage, because there is going to be a point where Trap will just get a late game army that deals well with Broodlords regardless of if he's ready, in quotation marks, for it or not. And I think that's just right about now. You have the 7 Broodlords. You have the maxed out ground army. For DRG, it's time to go. There's not only going to be 1 Tempest out. The actual anti-air capabilities of Trap are limited. It is 3 Archons, a Tempest, some Phoenix, and some Stalkers without Blink. You really do gotta try and go for this timing, and I think DRG is gonna try and pull the trigger now. Where are those Broodlords? Still not... What? Still not moving across the map with them. And I can't help but feel as though this is an oversight, because behind this, I mean, Trap's getting into late game. He's saying, oh yeah, I want to get Tempest up. I have a Mothership. He's getting +1 air weapons. And so it's an Ultralisk Cavern on the way. It is... I feel like DRG right now, maybe not having a complete read on the situation. He's going to have the Ultras available, of course, for that late game, Ling Ultra style if he wants to transition into that. Also, does have Infestors on the way. So he has late game options, but again, I just feel like the defensive Broodlord is such an interesting choice here for DRG, as Trap is looking for the push out, and this is, I guess, where this unit's going to shine is, hey, DRG's saying, listen, I want you to push into me. I have Broodlords ready. Go for the death push. I have Infestor Broodlord. DRG wants to absorb this pressure from his opponent. Is Trap going to play into it? I mean, as Trap, you don't need to, but Trap wants to go for the damage. He wants to go for the juggler and see if he can... I mean, he has 4 Tempests, and 4 Tempests are very good. The Viper immediately very, very low. The Twins are now going to try and push this back as the Immortals are here. The Storm's already so good. Look at that. The Broodlords just go down so quickly. And this is what I'm saying. I mean, this army just fights so well into what DRG has. The Fungals are very good. Corrosive Vials go down, and so far DRG actually taking a great start of this fight, but the Storms are absolutely brutal. But all of the Tempests are down. The Broodlords still remain, and there's not really anything to deal with them as the Blink Stalkers are going to come across the map. But 74 Lings are the remax, and this is what DRG was preparing for, was the idea that, hey, listen, even after I lose all these units, guess what? I can go into Ling Ultra. I have Adrenal Glands, and these Lings are going to absolutely chew through these Stalkers. Just look how quickly they get shredded. As it's a good defense from DRG, but he spent most of his money already on a remax, as Void Rays are on the way for Trap, and I actually think Trap has misread this. It is just Lings, it is Infestors and Queens. I don't know if the Void Rays are going to be the right call right now for Trap, as these Lings are going to stream across the map. They're going to try and find value. And they absolutely should be able to snipe this Nexus. They chew through it so quickly. DRG is going to be able to get on out. There's a few Lings here to a bad rally. And DRG holding on for now, but has a bit of less of a bank, and 5 more Broodlords on the way. It's going to continue to be Infestor, Broodlord, Viper. You're going to have the Zerglings on the ground to deal with the High Templar, to deal with the Stalkers. You know, you can get Baelings to deal with these Zealots. It's a good army from DRG. It's going to take a very, very specific engagement, though. It's going to take a specific handling of these fights. But DRG right now feels like, you know, that last one he handled extremely well. As once again, we're going to see a Ling run by here. Adrenal Glands already going to get some great value. Not going to focus down the pylons, so just have to get on out. As a DT Shrine is on the way. The Dark Shrine going to be added on for that late game option. More Void Rays in production, as well as Flux Veins. So Trap going to start to look here again for the mass Void Ray in the late game. Again, it's a weaker unit. It takes longer to build. It costs a bit more. But in the late game, when you have the money to do it, it's still just as strong as before, especially with the Flux Veins. As right now we're looking at, I mean, 2 players getting close to maxing out. 86 workers to 73, 102 army supply to 109. The mothership is being rebuilt, and look at the upgrades coming through for DRG. He has +3 ground attacks. 4. He has, I mean, right now is working on +3 flyer attacks, +2 ground carapaces. The Void Rays are going to commit on in here, but the Corruptor just come on over, and you actually have to back on up. Oh my god! Those parasitic bombs get so much value! Shield batteries have to heal it up, but that was almost brutal. As +3 flyer attacks is going to be a big difference here for this game. I mean, look at the upgrades. Look at the air upgrades. They're just non-existent for Trap right now. And Trap has the money to get them, but he doesn't have, I mean, he doesn't have ground armor. He doesn't have ship plating. He doesn't have shields. Right now, Trap's upgrades are actually abysmal in comparison to DRG, who has the +3 melee, has the +2 armor. He's going to have the +3 flyer and +1 flyer carapace. This is actually a really big deal right now. The fact that Trap's upgrades are not in order because he's having to spend so much gas on his army. You know, 5 Archons? That's 10 High Templar. You're looking at, you know, over 1,500 gas. This army for Trap has not allowed him to get those upgrades, and we're finally going to see them start to come back through as he gets a little bit more. As +2 ship weapons is started up. The shield is also started up, but it's just worrying as, oh, DRG has read this so well, has Banelings ready for the counterattack. He's going to completely deny that. As, the fungal growth, I think a parasitic bomb as well was put down. All of those Void Rays now super low on health. DRG, I feel like can push this right now. Has the Broodlords, only 5 of them, but it's 16 Corruptors, it's 6 Infestors. It is such a high-tech army here for DRG. And again, once he gets those upgrades coming through, that's where the difference is going to be made. As, oh, the fight might be coming on down. The fungal growths are so good to start this off, though. Parasitic bomb immediately popped down as the units are just retreating away. I mean, DRG doesn't really have the ground army to fight, but all the Void Rays are dead. The mothership is dead. I mean, the Ultra's going to come on through. The Banelings roll through. As now we're going to see Neural Parasites go down as Archons are fighting Archons. And DRG should be able to handle this. Doesn't have a lot of energy left on his Queens or his Investors. Needs to build the ground army back up. It's going to be 42 Lings, 4 Ultralists, and Trap just lost so much. I mean, he has a large army, but DRG just retreats. He keeps as much alive as possible. He waits for the Ultras to come through. He waits for the Infestor energy, and he fights this again. But the Archons are so strong. And there are so many of them right now. 7 Archons available for Trap. If you could just get a fungal growth, though. If you can get them low, if you can get a Neural Parasite, you can fight this. 7 Broodlords on the way, trying to use this dead airspace. As there we go, the blink forward, the Lings are going to commit on in. The first fungal growth is extremely good as the Ultras are now fighting straight up against the Archons. It's not a very good fight, though, as Trap supply is dropping, but so is DRG's. More units in support. DRG is going to be able to clean up the Stalkers. And now it's just the Broodlords, and I think this isn't enough for Trap to push this. I mean, DRG, the clutch morph on the Broodlords just has enough units to hold on. Trap tried to force it. He knew he had to try and find damage, but he wasn't able to. The blink forward is not going to be enough, and all these units are going to go down. Trap supply drops, and DRG holds on, loses a singular base. It's still at 75 workers. The base count has been evened out for both these players. Both of them sitting at 5, but I mean, DRG's army is just so much stronger. It's just so much better. He has 6 Broodlords, he has 6 Corruptors, Infestors, the Lings. And I don't think DRG realizes how far ahead he is right now, but it's 164 supply to 101. I mean, Trap just has no army left. And right now, Trap is trying to find this run by, but if this push comes through from DRG, he might just be able to push this to the end as Trap tried his hardest to make that work, but the micro, he was not able to micro his way out of that fight. He was not able to really get himself out of that location. Now it's 11 Broodlords, and what do you have to deal with it? You don't have Tempests anymore. You don't have the money for that. You have the Archons, but the Archons straight up don't fight that well, as it's just immediately a Neural Parasite. Archon goes down. As we now have Spines and Spore Crawlers being brought on over, it is Infestor Broodlord. We are back in Heart of the Swarm. Is absolutely insane. As here we go. I mean, the fungal growths are just so good. DRG collapses on in, and he's gonna win game 2 in the late game. And let's see how this goes. 2 really interesting and different games back to back. You had the aggression from Trap in game 1, the 8 gate, the constant pressure off 3 base, which he did manage to win, and then we see DRG force it to the late game. And he wins. And of course, I don't think it was like, I think that Trap was trying to do a lot of stuff, and the reason why it seemed like Trap was constantly behind is because DRG was actually reading the situations really well. I think his army composition, his decision making on the way he did it was a bit weird from DRG. How he got to the late game scenario was a bit weird, and you could probably criticize that, but the way he handled everything that Trap was trying to do to slow him down was, I think, really, really good. Because, I mean, you even saw it. There's a Zealot Archon run by. DRG has units ready for it. He's just absorbing all of the aggression from Trap, who feels the need to try and get damage done because he knows that DRG is just going to continue to macro up if he doesn't. And Trap didn't want it to go to the ultra late game. So, you know, he didn't want it to go to that stage of the game, or else you would probably let that happen. You would probably say, all right, I'll match you there. You know, I'll get up my late game army. I'll add on the Tempest, the Mothership, the High Templar. So it was really interesting though how it ended up playing out. I think both players handled it really well. Their micro was great, and they both knew where they had to force situations and where they had to pull back. It was a really, really good game. Very, very entertaining game. You know, it's not like a Maru versus Serral late game TVZ where you see a bunch of moves that are calculated to be probably the best value and the best chance you can get the best, you know, value you can get out of a move. But that was 2 players really playing a situation well and trying to make the best and make things work. And I liked it. We're going back to Glaives though for Trap. Robotics facility on the way, gateway as well. It is just going to be a actually pretty committed attack. That is going to be going up to 4 gateways. So it's not going to be the 3 gate. It's not going to be light pressure. No, this is 2 bases, 4 gate Adept Glaives. And here's the thing. DRG in the past has had a very, very big issue with defending early pressure. That has been, I think, one of the biggest criticisms of him as a player, is that he takes so much damage from stuff in the early game. And so obviously Trap wants to take advantage of that. Trap doesn't want to go late in PvZ right now, it seems. Trap just wants to try and end these games early. He wants to be aggressive. And so we're going to see Glaive Adepts. It's going to be, is that 5 gates? That's 6, it's 6 gate Adept. This is an all-in from Trap. I mean, it already was an all-in with 4 or 5 gates, but with those you have a transition option for you. With this, you are all in. This is your option, is the 6 gate blink, or Resonating Glaives Adepts. And DRG doesn't have Roaches. DRG doesn't have Banelings. It is just Lings in production. And Zerglings do not do very well against this many Adepts. As the Adept Printer is here, the Queen's immediately going to try and fight it, but you just see how much damage they do. The folks fire onto 1 Adept, not good enough. The Queens are immediately going to go down, and Trap is actually going to pull back here. Is not wanting to straight up fight the Queens, but also can't delay too much longer, because right now you have more Lings being built from DRG. And Trap, this is... I'm getting a bit worried here for Trap. Banelings are just going to waddle on forward. Going to force a split. They're going to force Trap to split up his Adepts, and then the Queens are just going to come on in, and they're actually going to fight these Adepts while they're split, and this is just buying so much time. Like, Trap doesn't want to commit in with the Adepts onto the Queens yet. Now he can. He has enough, Adepts that he can. But he's just been delaying for so long that DRG has, right now, 31 Lings at his disposal. I mean, of course, it's to 19 Adepts, so it's, still the Adepts are going to win this, but with the 8 Queens, it can win. The worry is, more drones were added on by DRG. Another round of Lings is going to try and bolster this, but he's continuing to try and just filter in drones here and there, which can be worrying. This can be worrying. But still, Lings have been, Lings are here. Banelings are here. The wraparound is here. The Baneling hit's not the best, but there we go. Find some great connections. As the blink goes into the main, the Adepts are going to try and shade on through. As now the drones are under fire. A great cancel there to let some of the drones out. 7 of them going down so far. And it looks like, DRG, he might have just droned a little bit too much. He doesn't have enough Lings. He doesn't have the Banelings quite yet. 15 drones going down, but because he drones so much, now only evening out the worker count. A nice catch onto these Adepts on the right side of the map. But you need these Banelings to be available for the ones in the main. DRG, if he can clean this up, though, it's going to be so big. These Banelings looking for the connections. The shade away. Good split there from, Trap, but still taking damage as he's starting to lose the Adept counts. As more Lings are going to catch him, the surround comes through. And Trap is going to lose all of the Adepts. He drops Adepts into the main, but they don't get anything done. And now suddenly, there's no third. The third is only now going down for Trap. He's ahead in workers. But mind you, from this point, DRG can re-drone. DRG could even go across the map if you wanted. Of course, you then run the risk of Adepts coming back in. And Trap is just trying to really keep DRG right now at home. He doesn't want DRG to push across the map. He knows that that's a risk. And so is keeping this Warp Prism here. The Queens, though, are in position, and so you're just going to have to pop a recall to try and get this out. Dark Templar Shrine on the way. Looks like Trap will be able to get the Adepts out, but it's a Roach Warren. 8 Roaches on the way. The DT Shrine is finishing up. And this is a little bit of a worrisome here for DRG. Does he have a lair even? Yeah, DRG does have a lair, so he can get into an Overseer. But issue is, does he have any? Spore Crawlers, that's 4 DTs being warped in as another round of Adepts. Just going to try and apply pressure. They're going to try and distract DRG. What? It's an immediate Archon warp in. No. Oh, Trap, he doesn't know. The Dark Templar could get so much value right now because there's no detection. But he doesn't know that. He warps it into an Archon, morphs it into 2 Archons. As now the Adepts just fighting straight up. The Roaches are going to be brought back. It's Roach and, Baneling, and I would love to see Baneling speed here for DRG. As the Baneling hit not the best so far. The Archon being dropped down. Those Banelings, though, get some massive connections, but I think DRG here committing a little bit too into this, maybe, but the Roaches are just going to get so much value. As a counterattack back at home, Trap needs to commit in. He needs to find damage, because if he doesn't, then that wall is broken. There are Lings in the natural. As that recall needs to be popped, and uh-oh, Trap did not make the right call here. He just recalled. He just recalls the Warp Prism. He loses everything else. It's just an Archon at home. He's going to lose so many probes. As Trap shaded on in, DRG was able to collapse into the ramp. And the Archons were not able to get enough value to make up for the fact that the Adepts do not fight well into those Roaches. Even without Centrifugal Hooks, the Banelings get good connections. And suddenly Trap is in an awful position. Trap, he had his third base. Trap, he had a transition. He had a transition to a macro game, and he committed more to the pressure. It feels like the decision making here is not really what you want to see. And again, the Archons could have kept the DTs, but just not entirely, I think, what Trap was wanting in this game. Obviously, you can see what the idea was. You go into the main, you have the Archons to block the ramp, you get the splash damage on all those units that are trying to come on up. doesn't really work out, though, as now Immortals are in production robotics bay on the way to maybe eventually get into Disruptors. And, I mean, Disruptors are what Trap is going to need to get back into this game. Right now, DRG has a massive army, 52 workers to 51. The worker count is actually even, but DRG has 84 army supply to 39, and Trap doesn't even have the units that trade that well right now. As more DTs being morphed in, or warped in, these ones might go straight across the map finally, but that was really a move that you wanted to see about 3 or 4 minutes ago. Still, they should be able to find some damage. No detection in these mineral lines. For DRG is a bit of an oversight. However, once this first DT moves in, if it's not synced up, DRG should be able to realize that something's up. Immediately, the drones are going to be shift-clicked. Where's the reaction from DRG? Immediately, the morph into the Overseer and the drone pull. So, yeah. I mean, DRG should be able to handle this well. Again, I think this is a move that had it happened earlier in this game could have been absolutely devastating, but as it is now, DRG just pulls the few lings, has the Overseers ready, and the DT is actually not even going, the other DT is not even going into the third. It's finally going to commit on in as the Overseer cleans up the other units, but then Trap realizes, wait a second, you don't have a large worker count. And Trap realizes, wait a second, you don't have a lot of workers, and there's a reason for that. Because there is so much Zerg that is just going to roll through this place. The Banelings going on in. The Disruptor shot is huge, but does it matter? The Banelings are going to find massive connections onto everything. As Trap drops below 70 supply, and DRG, he loses a lot, but it does not matter. He finds the damage. He's going to be able to kill the third. The Disruptor is going to go down. A nice pickup onto it, actually, to save it. But, I mean, the focus fire here from DRG, the split is not the best. Takes a lot of damage. But it doesn't matter. DRG just has so much to work with. As the base is going to fall, DRG can back up. He can build more units. But still did lose a lot. I mean, ideally, you don't want to lose as much as DRG just did. You'd like to hold on to a little bit of it at the very least. As that Ravager is actually just going to fall down to a Zealot. Does get killed. But just more units from DRG. He realizes that Trap is all in. He sees that no third is being rebuilt. And so right now, DRG just needs to build units. Now the thing is, I mean, it's 4 Immortals. It's 2 Archons. It's a Disruptor. I mean, Trap, can he make this work? He's only 40 supply down. The Disruptor shot, though, is not what you want. You want a bit more value from it right off the bat. As, the collapse is coming through. The Archon juggles. The Immortals trying to be pulled back, but just this army, there's so much for DRG. GG! It's really, really interesting to see how this would end up working out, you know? If we end up going to that winner's match, and then we get another actual PVZ between Hero and DRG. I think that would be really, really cool to see. And that's a matchup that actually I don't think I've actually seen before, if that does end up happening. If DRG is able to take this game, or maybe loses it and then takes the next, that would be a very, very exciting PVZ to watch. And then also, you would have the potential of a Hero Trap PvP, which I can only imagine would be the craziest thing possible. Considering that it's Hero and it's PvP. But yeah, I think no matter which player wins this, we're going to have an amazing matchup to follow. It's going to be a really, really awesome way to end off the morning of StarCraft 2 that we have gotten so far. And we're going to see what Trap's plan is for this game. Because again, it's Trap. And for Trap at least, the weird thing is, despite in every single one of the games, he has had to be the proactive one. And it's actually been a situation of DRG saying, listen, I'll meet you in a macro game. You have to try and kill me. You know? And sometimes, you know, it's felt like in the past, DRG has felt like a need to end the game. He's felt like he needs to, you know, on like a tier 2 tech, try and run over his opponent with just more units and win the game. Because his late game wasn't the best. But they went to the late game. in game 2, and DRG won. And oh my god, wait, the sling got in? Okay, that's actually really big. DRG does have full scouting information. He knows exactly what is happening in this Protoss base. He sees the probes mining. Sees the minerals being collected. He sees the Stargate warped into the sky. You know, if we were going by, I believe, the real scale, that Stargate is about 100 times the size of a Zergling, if not more. If not even 1,000 times. So it's just a little Zergling making its way in, seeing all this Protoss tech, and be like, oh, hive mind. Look at it. It's so big. But it's going to be the Oracle play from Trap. So we will see actually 2 Oracles produced. So it's going to be going up to 2. Not immediately into the Phoenix, like you see some players do, Oracle into Phoenix, or sometimes you do see like something like Void Ray into Oracle, or Oracle into Void Ray, into 2 Void Rays to help defend the 3rd base. That doesn't seem to be the case though for Trap. Just the 2 Oracles, and that's going to be it. We'll go back into the ground play after this. I would imagine that has kind of been the style for him, but a 3rd Oracle is actually started up, so there is a potential that you can start to get a lot of damage done with this. And you know, if you see a 4th Oracle, then we're starting to get into territory that has not been explored since 2016 on a certain watery, pooly map with a certain Taiwanese Protoss. Stalker does go down, but a nice warp in of a shield battery, or a pylon, as well as the sentry is going to stop those lings from getting in. Still, you manage to find a kill onto a Stalker. 3 drones do go down across the map to the Oracles. And Trap, I think so far, decently happy with just kind of poking around, not really diving in, trying to find serious damage, but now has the 3 Oracles available to him, and that of course does increase their power exponentially. As the 3rd base is finished, Robotics facility on the way, +1 immediately, and Blink. Interesting, is Trap. This is actually a really, I love this build from Trap. This is something that we saw a lot previously. It hasn't been as popular lately, as the Oracles are going to try and dive on in here, having to kind of sit between the 2 Spore Crawlers and do a good job of doing so. Looking for these drone kills, diving back in, looking for a few more, but out of energy, and so it should just back up. 5 drone kills, though, absolutely worthwhile. But as I was saying, this build, it's always been around, this kind of +1 Blink Stalker timing attack. It's always been around, but you never see it super often, which is very, very cool. And I love that Trap is pulling it out now, especially on a map that is as small as Curious Minds. You know, there's a lot of high ground that you can play with, a lot of different areas that you can blink to. So I think that this has a chance of being a very, very interesting timing attack, and you still have the Oracles available as well to help deal with the tanks, or with the Queens, the tankiness of the Queens, to help deal with the Ravagers. As, oh, gotta be careful that you don't lose these sentries, though. Those are very important to this, and as we see, the Oracles immediately just pop a Ravager. As, oh, DRG, that's Queens walking across the map. DRG is actually just bringing the Queens over. Oh, he did this in GSL. He said it was a bit of a mistake. It was just instinct as, oh, Stasis Ward. It's a lot of value there as DRG. Queen's now going to be fighting straight up. Has so many Ravagers here with this fight. Of course, can't transfuse off creep. Does know that, but just the tankiness and the DPS of this unit is what he's going to be using. That shield battery is going to get knocked down. All the shield batteries now down. More being warped on in. The Ravagers trying to find as much value as they can. Lings actually managed to get out of the Stasis Ward, and they're fighting on the other side. They're going to be brought on over as Oracles go down. Queens are still alive. I mean, great Ravager biles to deal with these shield batteries, but I think there's just too much here for Trap. He has the +1 Blink Stalkers, and DRG is pulling an all-in into +1 Blink Stalkers. Trap was going to attack anyway. GG. The builds work out. Trap just has enough. He's going to force us to a Game 5. And we're on to Blackburn for a PVZ. I have to admit, PVZs on Blackburn are always just the craziest thing. Like, the last time DRG played a PVZ on Blackburn, he built Mutalisk, flew across the map, and killed his opponent in roughly 8 minutes. And other times you see crazy late game ZVPs that seem to go on for hours and hours. And we'll see which one we get. We could also just get a very, very fast game where Trap once again goes for the Blade of Depths, walks across the map, and then the game is decided right then and there. Really, there's the there's the whole kitchen sink, and then and some. But it's going to be Stargate opening once again. Trap, obviously. It's just, Trap is just, the Stargate is what he knows. And the Stargate is just the best opening right now in PvZ. It just gives you so many options for early game scouting, for early game harassment. It really is kind of the catch-all to your early game needs as a Protoss player. Also gives you some nice defense, which of course is very, very useful when the Zerg wants to be aggressive. They have these early lings out. You're trying to get that fast third, and so obviously they'll be getting out those Stargate units, and it's going to be Phoenix this game. So we're straying away from the Oracle. We might see an Oracle second here, but if we see continued Phoenix production, of course, could be very, very interesting. I think it will just be the one though, and then we should. No, there's two. Aha! We have a little bit of a mix-up here from Trap, which you always love to see, but it's going to be going into Phoenix on Blackburn. And that's going to be interesting to see how Trap uses them. I haven't seen Trap's Phoenix play in a while, or what he likes to do off the piece. So, of course, there are a few options. You go Phoenix, you then go into your Twilight Council, charge a lot, get a bunch of ground units, and then you're kind of working with that. Alternatively, there of course always is the option of Phoenix Colossus, which is a very, very strong composition. Usually you'll see that more in PvT than in PvZ. But of course is always a transition that you can have kind of in your back pocket if you're getting that robotics facility, regardless for something like an Observer. The Phoenix are going to dive on in here and should already be able to start to pick off a few drones. No Spore Crawler here in the natural means that gonna get the 3. One Phoenix getting very, very low. And so Trap just gonna back away, as it is gonna be the Twilight Council follow-up here for Trap, not adding on a second Stargate or anything, not gonna be committing any more to this air army than he needs to, which is gonna be going up to 5 or 7 Phoenix usually. Is the number that you like to get to. Is again continuing to pick off drones here, just sticking just outside of the range of that Spore Crawler and managing to find a good amount of value. So you've already gotten yourself six worker kills is already decent enough. Phoenix have all been kept alive, as we have gone up to a very, very healthy count of 5, and that's where Trap is going to cut his Phoenix production. With 5, you of course can knock down these Overlords, you can one-shot drones, and so you're a pretty happy camper with 5 Phoenix flying around and being annoying. Being on the Zerg side of the map, getting constant scouting information as well. As gateways are on the way, Templar Archives, +1, it is just Trap getting ready for a complete ground transition out of this. Of course, that Stargate might be used later. We might see a fleet beacon if this goes to the late game. We might see a transition into an Airtoss army. But right now, that is not the color of the month. It's 5 gateways on the way, and the flavor of the week is charge lots. As DRG doing a very good job of mirroring the movement of these Phoenix, actually. Managing to keep his queens in position as... Uh-oh, Trap, are you ready for this? Archon immediately morphed in. As Baneling's going to be blocked on out. Some great force fields, actually, here from the Trap. But now you have Banelings looking for the wall, looking to knock it down. And actually, they should be able to, but they're not allowed on in. As the Archon's just going to be able to get so much value here. Has a shield battery, and that is the scariest thing that Zerglings can see, is an Archon with a shield battery. As these Lings going to once again try and bust at them. Man, they can't, though. And DRG trying to just pull the trigger on a Ling Flood here. Oh, that gateway getting low. Trap, does he have the rewall in time? Oh, force field going to be able to stop it. DRG continuing to look for this wraparound, though. More lings have been produced. This is such good play here from DRG with these lings zoning out the unit that's at the units that are at the third. A second Archon has been morphed in, though. The lings are in. The wall-in didn't come through in time. A wall-in in the main isn't completed. And now these buildings are going to start to go down as more gateways are being, produced for Trap. But a sentry goes down now. Lings are going to find their way into the natural. DRG being absolutely ruthless, but he hasn't really found worker kills just yet. Trap's done a really good job pulling his workers away. Finally, they're going to start to go down, though. That's 9, 10. The probe kills are going to start to rack on up, as in the natural, they're being absolutely decimated. 21 probes fall. And Trap, the re-wall effort was valiant. And he wasn't expecting the +1 ling timing. As now 13 roaches are on the way. And Trap was not able to split his army well enough. Still, though, the army supply is even. He has high-value units. He has 8 charge lots. He has 5 Archons. Now with +1, this attack from Trap is going to be brutal. But also, there's roaches out. There are banelings out. DRG has queens. He has everything that he needs to deal with it. And Trap is just going to back on up. As DRG has absolutely found the timing in this game. He has found the damage. And now is in such a great position. As the Phoenix gets sniped. +2 ground weapons on the way for Trap. Immortal production as well started up. It's 2 Archons in a Warp Prism. It is a classic tale as old as time. Much like the 2 cities, this is the 2 Archons. Looking to try and find some harassment damage. And actually, ooh, drones end up grouping up, so a lot of splash damage. Manages to get 5 drone kills. Going to rack up a few more, as there's no real anti-air available to DRG just yet. But also, I don't think DRG is really worrying about anti-air right now. DRG, he is getting maxed out. He is going to bring the queens potentially across the map. He is going to reach 200 supply, and he's going to try and crush through this 4th base attempt of the Protoss. And, Trap right now, he's trying to get... No, Trap. No. Trap! You can't... In what world do you have enough time to get into a fleet beacon and 2 additional Stargates? The world is not this one! As here we go, DRG's coming across the map. He breaks down the force fields. The queens are here. The banelings are here. They don't even have speed. But that doesn't matter as the Archons are trying to pull back. And DRG just has so much. He's going for the mineral line. Speed finishes! 11 probes go down, as DRG does just have to pull back to the queens for now. As the banelings are starting to get, just a little bit damaged, but they're going to roll on into the Immortals. All of the Archons are going to go down. DRG still has so much supply left over, and Trap is below 100. As, the creep. Look at this creep. Yeah, it's just too much. GG. DRG is going to close it out in 5. What a series from him.